Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rookie Reporters pod. Today, we're swapping courts and circuits for the turf of Europe's greatest stadiums. We are diving into one of the most prestigious club competitions on the planet, where the lights are brighter, the pressure is heavier, and the stars aren't just born, they're immortalized. We are talking about the Champions League. We have just witnessed the final heart-stopping night of the league phase, a total tactical demolition. 36 game teams, one giant table, and 90 minutes of pure chaos that decided who stays and who gets sent packing. From last-minute goals to strategic masterclasses, the road to the 2026 final starts right here. To help me break down the matches, the madness, and the massive upsets that have unfolded on our screens, I've got a football fanatic who has been tracking every pass, press, and VAR decision. Please welcome our Champions League expert, Naeemah. How are you today?
Hiya, I'm very good actually, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very excited to get chatting about football, all things Champions League. And to get us started, when you think about the Champions League, what is the one thing that you love the most, and what just makes the Champions League and football as a whole so special to you?
I think the Champions League specifically is the pinnacle of sport. If you get to the Champions League, you know your team has made it. And it's completely inclusive of all European, even outside of Europe teams,
Mm.
where the best teams in the best leagues get to compete together and you can travel between different worlds and see how different countries play football differently. So to see the different kinds of styles between European football teams is incredible. So watching the Champions League is like watching the best, like the highest point of the sport.
It's amazing. I've just started getting into it, but I love it and I definitely agree with you. Now, we're calling you our Champions League expert tonight for a reason. So, could you just tell us a little bit about what makes you our go-to expert and what sort of credentials have given you that front row seat? Maybe you've played football before, or maybe you're just a very, very passionate fan.
So I've always been into football. I started watching football when I was 3 years old, and for
Wow.
context, I am now 21. So
Wow.
it's been a very, very long time since I started watching football, and it's stuck with me. It's been an absolute central part of my life. And because of the teams that I've been watching my whole life here in the UK, they go to all different countries and all different places, which has allowed me to look at different teams. So, especially looking at La Liga has been incredible to watch as well, and seeing how British football differs from Spanish football. And now Italian football is getting a lot more interesting, especially with Napoli coming into the frame. So that's where football slides into for me.
And have you been to any sort of matches yourself?
So I go to my own team's games probably every 2 weeks. I'm
Oh,
a
wow.
very good supporter. Um, we go to away games here and there. I think the biggest game that I've ever been to was the Euros quarterfinal or the
Wow.
semi-final. So
So
I
you're an
was there at
expert
Wembley
then.
for that.
Okay.
So that was incredible. I mean,
Mm.
there's no better thing than watching England at Wembley.
Yeah, 100%. And I know you said you were 3 years old when you started watching football, but do you remember what actually got you into football? Maybe it was someone in your family, maybe it was like a headline. Well, maybe not if you were three, but what sort of thing turned you into a football obsessive and a Champions League obsessive?
So my dad was the one who started taking my sister and myself to football games when we were younger. And at the time, it was just when it was our birthdays, we'd go to a game around our birthday. So that was our little birthday treat with my dad. And then as I've gotten older, I've gotten more ingrained into the culture of football. So I'd say I started liking and watching a lot more football when I was in the end of my primary school days, which was around 11 years old. When in the UK, I don't know if they have them outside of the UK, they had the match attacks.
Oh,
So I was
yeah.
one of those people that collected the match attacks and traded cards with all my friends. And at that time, Rooney was still playing, Eden Hazard was still playing, Alexis Sanchez was still doing his bits. And since then, I kind of, Man United were doing very well, and that's the team I support. So I was following them a lot in Europe. Hence, a lot more Champions League football was being watched, a lot more European football was being watched, and that was probably, I don't think, when I became a massive fan. It's probably in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So, and specifically when I was maybe 15, I started really paying attention to other teams other than just my own team.
Mm. And first things first, today we are debriefing the crazy 18 matches that happened on Wednesday, the 28th of January. Did you watch any of these games yourself?
Oh, goodness me. We were watching all of them. It was
All of
absolute
them.
carnage. So on, I think it's Amazon Prime, you can do the multi-viewer. And so
Oh,
what it
okay.
does is have every single match. And then when something is happening, the screen will automatically switch to a game where a
Oh,
goal has
wow.
happened, or a red card has happened, or some sort of incident has happened. So I managed to keep up with most of the games that had a lot of action.
Okay. That's a good idea actually. I tried to watch one of the games, but I was getting so confused because all of them were going on at the same time and I was just like, no, I just have to stick and watch one. But because you've obviously seen them all, if you had to pick one main event, what would it be and why?
Oh, the Real Madrid game, 100%.
Yep.
That was absolutely insane because it wasn't like you watching the notoriously strong side of Real Madrid. They're quite notoriously known in La Liga and the world for being a very
Mm.
strong side. I mean, the likes of Kylian Mbappe play for the team. You know, Going into that game, it looked like a very easy win
Mm.
for Real Madrid. But then Benfica came out fighting. They came out strong. Real Madrid were caught completely off guard. And I think that's what made it so exciting. And they lost all composure,
Mm.
which ultimately ended their run in the Champions League top eight. And they dropped to ninth. And now they have to go in the playoffs.
Crazy. Honestly, this game is all I've been seeing on social media right now. It's just gone viral. And we've seen so many superstars. So if you could pick a sort of player of the night, who would it be?
I have to go with the keeper. I know
Yeah.
he made his one moment count, but honestly, his moment was the deciding factor of not only taking Real Madrid out of their secure top eight spot, but it pulled Benfica out of the elimination zone and into the playoffs purely on goal difference.
Mm.
So if anyone has to take it, it has to be him. He was the one who made the difference for the team.
Yeah, and I think because that game was such a spectacle, it was so out of nowhere. No one had any idea that that was going to happen. It's really shone a massive spotlight onto that team. How important is that for Benfica, having all of these eyes on them right now?
I think it's really important for them to capitalize on this in terms of the publicity that they're getting because it brings a lot more people into the sport. You can, with more publicity, more fans will start to come back, will start to creep in. It will do much more for the team, and it also bring in fans that have never even seen games before. Just like the World Cup, teams that are like typically underdogs and teams that overpower the ones that are supposed to be winning. It brings drive and it brings people into the sport. A lot of people that would previously not think about football are thinking, this looks interesting.
Mm.
This has been all over my newsfeed. This has been all over social media. I wonder what they're talking about. And for Benfica, for a team like that, it would do wonders for them.
Yeah, and Now, we have to talk about the team that's basically the gold standard of European football right now, Arsenal. They walked into Wednesday night having already dominated the competition, but they never took their foot off the gas and they beat Kairat 3-2. They had 8 games played, 8 games won, and it was a perfect clean sweep. Considering how many incredible clubs there are in this tournament, how are Arsenal making it look so easy?
It is true. They are making it look very easy. Their form in the Champions League has been completely flawless. There hasn't been much of a fault. They've had the most goals scored for the entire tournament, and they had the least goals conceded. So not only are they working very well like defensively, but they're compensating for that by working very well as an attacking side, as a dominant force. I mean, considering their form in the Premier League being kind of swaying a little bit at the moment, it's very like reassuring, I guess, for Arsenal fans that their team is doing so well in the Champions League. And I mean, they do make for entertaining football. So even if you had no idea what was going on, just turning on that game would have been entertaining.
Yeah, 100%. Now, one of the biggest headlines from Wednesday and in Arsenal right now was Kai Havertz. He's been out for nearly a year with injuries, but he gets his first start and he immediately produced a goal and an assist in a team that's already winning everything in the Champions League. How much better do they get now, and how much scarier is it for other teams now that Havertz is back in the mix?
I think Kai Havertz returning to the team was incredibly important for Arsenal because he's such an impact, not only just like in the starting 11, he's such an impact when he comes on as like a substitution. You can see he comes in straight away, bang, makes an impact, uplifts the team. It's very important to have players like that. And with his return, it's looking more like Arsenal have opened up bigger opportunities for better plays and for better strategies. And of course, they're going to ease him back into the team. They won't have him in the starting 11 for a little bit longer. They'll bring him on as like an impact substitute. However, I still think that going forward, I think with him back in the squad, I don't see Arsenal being defeated
Yeah.
even that easily either.
And Arsenal has basically just been absolutely perfect. But while they were busy doing that, Real Madrid was living through an absolute nightmare in Lisbon. We've discussed it a little bit already. They went into Wednesday night needing just a draw to stay in the top 8, but they ran into their former manager and the Benfica team, they just refused to give up. It was rainy, it was chaotic, and it's definitely given us the most viral moment of the tournament so far. But watching that game, there were so many amazing moments, and that game as a whole, the goal from the goalkeeper, everything like that. Where do you think that ranks in sort of Champions League history and just the absolute iconicness that it was?
I think it's quite high. I think I say that just because the team that Real Madrid is at the moment is a very dominant team. They're incredibly strong. For them to kind of go out against this side and to lose in such a way is a massive upset. And it's very unlike them. So I think in terms of like an iconic Champions League moment, this would have to be one of them. I mean, it definitely is up there because I mean Benfica are through. That game took them through.
Mm. And it's so important. And, everyone loves an underdog. It's cliche, but we all love to see a big team getting beaten by quite a smaller one. Now, Jose Mourinho, he beat his old club 4-2 to save Benfica's season. For a coach who he's been quite under pressure lately, how sweet do you think it felt for him to be the one to knock Real Madrid out of the top 8 and force them into the playoffs?
I think because he has that personal connection to the club, it felt just that bit better
Yeah.
because especially with how he left Real Madrid, I think it definitely made him feel a lot better about his position right now.
Mm.
And for the Benfica side and his pressure that he's facing as a manager, for anyone to be in the Champions League is a big pressure in itself. And it's also it's a big achievement to be in the Champions League. You see clubs that have never, really gone into European football just because they finished first or second in their national leagues.
Mm.
So for him to go there, for him to then get through to the round of 16, I think it would really help his troubles at the club at the moment,
Yeah.
really help his managerial status because they're still in the Champions League. And that goes to show a lot. Plus beating Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to really beat Real Madrid.
Yeah, beating them was just a cherry on top for him. And now that the league phase is officially over, the 36 team table has been locked for now. We have our sort of elite eight who get to go home and rest, skip the playoffs, and it's a mix of usual suspects like City and Bayern, but there are some surprises in how everything shook out. Man City managed to grab that final eighth spot by the skin of their teeth, while PSG and Real Madrid dropped into the playoffs. Which of those teams in ninth to 24th that you would have thought would have been in the top eight and now a massive, massive threat?
I have to go with PSG. I have to say Real Madrid. I mean, these two sides are incredibly massive. And for PSG, for the team that have the old Ballon d'Or winner sitting in their wings, in their squad, for them to go from winning the Champions League to then be dropping outside while they're trying to hold on to their title and become champions once more, I think it's a big shock. But I don't think they're out for the count by any stretch of the imagination. I think putting them in this position is going to make them more scary, 100%.
Yeah. And looking at the top eight right now, Arsenal, Bayern, Liverpool, Spurs, Barcelona, Chelsea, Sporting, and City. Who do you think is going to go the furthest in the competition? Maybe except Arsenal, because we've already said you think they're going to win, but which of those teams do you think can claim that second spot?
You know what? Possibly Barcelona. I mean, they have been on a good run of form, but if I want to play underdog for a second, maybe Sporting.
Ooh,
Maybe Sporting, because you know what? They've not done too bad, especially considering their position. They aren't, getting there just because they've lost a few times. They've won a lot of their games, and their losses, you're going to get a few of those sometimes. Not everyone could be Arsenal. However, it would be it would make for such a good Champions League for an underdog like Sporting to make their way through the round of 16. I just know that everyone will be sat there hoping that they get further, hoping that they get further. And I think I will be one of them.
yeah, definitely. Now we have to talk about Liverpool because they had a massive performance and going into this match against Karabakh, there was a lot of noise about Liverpool's kind of form, but they answered every critic and they won 6-0. How do you think they managed to win by such a massive margin? And what were the most important factors?
I think considering their poor run of form in the Premier League, they had a lot to answer for. They had a lot to say. And I think winning 6-0 was important to, solidify their status in being a good team and being a force to be reckoned with. However, I will play devil's advocate and say that the team that they were up against, as much as they have done a lot to be in the Champions League, are not that side was not from a team that was really well known, a very strong side. I think a lot of people, despite saying that, they haven't been on a good run of form as of late, expected at least a 3-0 from Liverpool. I mean, I expected at least a 3-0.
Yeah.
I think the 6-0 was done for good measure to say to all the critics, that, we are still here. We are still a force to be reckoned with. Don't don't forget us just because of what's been happening. But this was a game that they should have won. They should have always won. And it's a good thing that they just, turned off all the noise that they were hearing and just laser focused on the game at hand and just won. It was very important for them. Either way, entertaining game. There were some great goals to witness. You can't really fault a 6-0
Yeah.
victory.
Yeah. And even as someone who isn't really a massive football fanatic, 6-0 was just crazy to me. And they are Liverpool. So when I was looking through the matches, when I was looking through who was playing, I was like, okay, that one they have to win. If they don't win, something's up. That's going to be a big point. But that massive win, it didn't just look good on the scoreboard, it's boosted Liverpool's goal difference so much that they've climbed up to third in the overall table. And now that they're up in the top three, do you think this performance sort of cements them as the primary threat to Arsenal and Bayern Munich for the trophy?
100%. I think what they have told us is that not only are they still here, that they're still able to produce these kinds of results, even under all the criticism and under all the pressure. They will be a side that I think Arsenal and Bayern will definitely find troublesome wherever they meet them. I kind of hope that they face them quite early because to see three sides, one of them to go out quite early on would be both an upset and also make for an incredible game.
Mm.
And I think the biggest takeaway in terms of like individual players was Mo Salah finally scoring after a very big deficit of his
Yeah.
goals. I think that was important not only for fans to see, but I think that will bring his confidence back up going into this really important stage.
Yeah.
And it was a great free kick. It was great. He proved, he is the player that he thinks he is. And now they get to rest a little bit, reflect. That's what the top eight have the luxury of doing now, to take a minute, regather themselves strategically,
Mm.
personally, physically, and then come out again stronger when the playoffs are over, that they can now fight to full strength.
Yeah, and everyone wants to be in that top eight, but it's also a very desirable position because of what you've just said, because of the rest that you get, and because you don't have to be playing all of these playoff matches. So, how beneficial is it for these top eight teams to have all of this rest, to reset physically, mentally, everything like that? And how is that a massive advantage for them against the teams in ninth to 24th right now?
I think it's really important because something that people forget is that this Champions League isn't all that's happening right now.
Mm,
It's just another league happening. All these teams have to go to and like continue in their own leagues and continue in their own league cups and fight for their positions. If you look at Arsenal, they still are at the top of the table in the Premier League, um, but they still need to fight for that position. They are a good few points ahead, but if they dropped points over the weekend. So, they still need to fight for, being first place in the table. And you can't let it slip.
mm.
So to have that extra wiggle room, that extra time to train and to get better and also use their own leagues as a playing field for like strategy, um, trying new things with different players and putting new players on and taking new players off.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the Champions League is something that everybody wants to win. So if anyone's going to put their priority, it's going to be the Champions League. But it's important not to forget that this is not the only competition
Mm.
happening.
And now we're in the 25-26 season, so we cannot wrap up without talking about the sort of elephant in the room, this brand new format. This is the first year we've ditched the old format and we've got this massive 36 team league phase. We've been promised big on big matches. We've been promised exciting finishes, and the standings are basically shifting. every 5 minutes. So, for anyone listening who isn't really up to speed on all of this new format, could you just explain a little bit about what it is, what's different, and why it matters?
So previous to this, there were, I guess, group stages. This was the better way to describe it. You'd be in a group, you'd play 3 games with these 3 teams in a group. This would be 4 teams, and you play 3 matches against each of the teams.
Yeah.
And then that would basically decide your position. If you were first or second in your group, you would go into the playoffs. And then anyone that was in third or fourth, third place normally tried to get, battle it out and get their place in there. So they'd go into like the playoffs, is what we call it now. And this new format basically scraps the groups. Everybody's in one big, massive group, and they played 8 matches, and the top of that league basically took it all. And I think, in terms of why this was a big change and why it's made such a massive impact, is because, exactly as you said, you got to see big teams fight big teams, and you also got to see smaller teams fight really big teams. So that was really big for the smaller clubs, because it means that the fans get to travel and go to these countries and go and see their teams play. And that would have been so brilliant for them, because it gives them the opportunity to go and see these other teams play their team. And it's brought about a lot more televised football. I mean, Amazon Prime have really upped the amount that they can now broadcast for the games. I mean, they were able to show all 18 games of the Champions League. So for the last day. So it really did make a big difference. It took me a while to kind of get my head around it. It does look a lot more simpler, but as someone that was programmed to remembering that this group played and then this group was playing and then this group was playing, for all of them to be happening at the same time was a little bit overwhelming at the beginning. But
very big difference.
Yeah, I've got my head around it eventually.
And before we get into our final predictions, I just want to pause for a second and shout out something very exciting we've been putting together behind the scenes. If you're a football fan who loves a good book, you need to see the Rookie Reporters bookmarks. They're completely handmade by the Rookie Reporters team, and they feature designs inspired by football, and we've also got some Formula One options as well. These bookmarks are all made by hand, and they're such a cute way to rep your favourite athlete. Even better, every single penny from these bookmarks goes straight back into the Rookie Reporters, helping us keep creating content, running the site, and bringing you guys more of what you love. You can check out the full range and place a custom order now at therookiereporters.com. Now, we do have a few football bookmarks available already, but if you could choose absolutely any team or any player to get their own design next, who would you pick and why?
Well, I just have to say it, Ronaldo.
Okay.
I have been the biggest Ronaldo fan since I was young. I'm still a massive Ronaldo fan now. I mean, he was at my, my own club twice.
Wow.
He's always been a massive. When you think of football, you think of him and you think of Messi.
100%.
So those two iconic people on a bookmark would absolutely just be my bread and butter.
Yeah, Ronaldo and Messi, they're just the big two. We all love them or hate them, some people. There's a big rivalry, but you know. And now I'm going to put you on the spot for one final quick fire prediction. We've kind of spoken about it already, and this season has thrown up plenty of surprises. So, where are you putting your money? Which team will win the Champions League trophy this year? Super fast.
I have to say, from the table alone, Arsenal.
Yep, Arsenal
might take it. They just might win their first piece of silverware in a very long time.
And That's unfortunately all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise. We've got a much clearer picture of the Champions League landscape now, and I'm definitely ready to watch this season continue. For everyone listening, if you want to see those handmade bookmarks we talked about or read our incredible articles, head over to our website at therookiereporters.com and make sure you're following us on all our socials at The Rookie Reporters so you don't miss a thing. I'm your host, Annie Michelle. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rookie Reporters pod. Don't forget to hit follow so you never ever miss an episode. And we'll see you all next time. Bye!